That's better, I think. Hold on. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. So today is November 30th and tomorrow is December 1st. December 1st is known as Cyber Monday, and I think there is a general boycott going on right now, but people have been said if you must shop, you should shop locally, that kind of thing. Well, I'm just going to let everybody know that my self-pub house, Lulu.com, has a sale right now, 30% off print books if you use the code BOOKGIFT. So, BOOKGIFT. I'll put that information and a link in the description box. But I thought that I would take this opportunity to give you a reading of my own poetry, let you see some of my different books. If you feel like availing yourself of the opportunity to get a little bit of a discount. I think the shipping is still exorbitant, but it is a chance to get a little bit of a break on the cover price of the books. Now, I have not planned anything out for this reading. I know. But I pulled a bunch of different books, and I will just kind of go through and read some poems. I haven't given a reading of my own poems in a while anyhow. Now, I played with the idea of reading from my one book of sort of like literary criticism as best as I could do it. The first several pieces, I think, are articles that were printed at online journals. I don't think you say printed. They were published at online journals. And in the case of the book, I presented my unexpurgated version of these. I'm not going to read any of this, though, I've decided. Well, what is this? I don't speak for this book. I'll just read whatever this is. What shall I ever do? I filled out the book with blog posts. 11/17/2014. So we're talking, what, 11 years ago? Yeah, pretty near it. I have not exactly seen the moment of my greatness flicker. Rather, if there was greatness, it has never come into its own. But I have seen in a good quarter of a century since I said to the producers at Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, I prefer not to. Many events transpire. When I began to write plays, in Chicago at least, a 2-act structure was common, and so I wrote accordingly. The format I have evolved or discovered has suited me, but I recognize the vogue for the 2-act. All of Shakespeare was presented that way, footnote, here in Chicago, has begun to pass. Now we see musicals all the rage, or else crisp, short plays done as a one act. 50 minutes to 80 minutes at most, with no intermission and no chance for the audience to walk out if it's bad. In most of our spaces, that would entail cutting across the action. So I recognize myself as something of a dinosaur in the sphere of theatrics, adhering as ever to drama before theater, action before performance, as is the playwright's credo. So that's the kind of thing that you will get if you opt for Lit Crit. I was real pleased with managing to put this cover together. And on the back is reproduced something from a high school quiz that I had to take about poetry. I got a C on the quiz. You can see I had to identify the different meters. I don't know if you can see that, but be that as it may. So I'll just take these books one at a time. Recently on this channel, you've seen a lot from my book Against Fascism. These poems deal with the political situation of our day. And what shall I choose here? Well, you can go to the backlog of videos here and listen to poems more speaking to the political situation. I'll just read the final poem, which does not have a title. It was a poem that happened to be in the notebook in which I started this book. If I might worship at the shrine of beauty so unparalleled as that which I perceive as thine, my passion were made quick, not quelled. As one who made the longest march across the desert sands, I would debase myself and quench my parch, and pray the gods beheld it good. It's my religiosity to serve a love which serves me not. For if you would look after me, my years of thirst would be forgot. Alas, they sprawl behind, before I merely see prospect of death. Though years accumulate the more, already I have lost my breath. So that poem is not typical for this book. In the year 2021, I did a book of ballades, a popular poetic form with Dorothy Parker and G.K. Chesterton, I think, if I've got those names right. Well, since we are approaching the Christmas season, I know there was at least a poem or two dealing with Christmas or dealing with the New Year, and if I can find it, that would be ideal. Well, I am sorry. Here's one. Well, this is the New Year's poem. This is titled Ballade of New Year's Eve. The days are at their shortest, having passed the winter solstice but a week ago. The year is nearly out, old year, at last, and we await the new year beckoned so, with chance to start anew and close old woe, although it merely be a change in numbers, the clock inexorable in perpetual flow. We drink a toast, till midnight no one slumbers. The days grow longer, but it is not fast. Winter's cold zero, yet ahead we know. Already I have felt the cold winds blast upon the frigid ground, fresh ice and snow, more than I like. Yet snow will fall, wind blow, another silvery month or two, as lumbers the march of time inexorably slow. We drink a toast, till midnight no one slumbers. The boy I was, to see this, were aghast. I, an old fool, and no Lothario, a dotterer, which never was forecast. In youthful hopes and dreams, time laid me low, and clamped the lid on braggadocio, as weariness of age the soul encumbers, and body waits the ultimate overthrow. We drink a toast, till midnight no one slumbers. Our salutations we take and bestow, and none of us, despite our hardships, grumblers. It's bottoms up and down the hatch, hi-ho. We drink a toast, till midnight no one slumbers. So that was Ballade of New Year's Eve, and you will find other poems of like format in this book, Sheetrock Tabernacle. I showed this book the other day. This is our old polydactyl cat, no longer with us. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the title to come in any better than that. It is Quarantine Boutique, and it is a book of poems pertaining to the COVID experience. So what year is this from? From 2020. Ouch. Ouch. Well, I don't go back to these books, and so I'm not really familiar with these poems. Well, this one is titled Bus Driver. The woman coughed upon the bus into the open air, the which he drove. The driver thus expressed, tinged with despair. She disrespected me, he said, and every passenger. Within 2 weeks, the man was dead, and I blame only her. I do not blame the governor, my city, nor my boss. He wiped his brow, sweat seemed to pour, to drive his point across. I do not blame the president, but only her I blame. Knowing pandemic rife, she went on coughing just the same. 7 or 8 times thus her cough she didn't try to cover. when you know how it isn't rough to put some paper over, or cough into your arm like so. But she coughed in the air, which seemed to say, though I may know, I really couldn't care. He said he blamed her, no one else, but my blame farther reaches. Within my breast it burns and swells, and even God impeaches. So, something from Quarantine Boutique, poems written while sheltering in place during the 2020 COVID-19 outbreak in Chicago. You may recall when President Carter died, I read a poem which was an epitaph for the president. These poems were written much earlier, and I never went public with it until after his demise. I won't read that one tonight. These poems are a little bit longer than what I really intend. And again, these poems, I don't really know that well. I'd like to find one that's shorter. They are of different lengths. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking. Well, the shortest one that I am coming to. Oh, here's a short one. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking of. This one is titled The Tug of War. 'Tis easier to leave life than to stay. Yet, oh, the leaving it is very hard. To stay and see one's loved ones pass away, with only heaven a far-off reward. 'Tis hard to live and suffer, yet to live obliges suffering on all of us. And when one lives the life contemplative, he knows how well they are synonymous. 'Tis easier to leave, and yet to go entails a suffering all its very own, no less than that which early on we know as babes in infancy when we are born. 'Tis hard to stay when one must live in pain. In either case, to go or stay brings sorrow. Nor are there any words that can explain why the departure can't be made tomorrow. Tomorrow or tomorrow after that. For leaving, we would rather put away beyond all current frame of reference at a time less inhospitable than today. Blessed are they that have time for farewells, to say their words, though words cannot express the sadness bubbling up that no word quells, the overflow of tears not any less. 'Tis hard to leave, and still 'tis hard to stay, a tug of war maintained until the end, until the leaving gains the better sway, and those bereft have lost themselves a friend. So the book is titled Between Wakefulness and Sleep, from 2002, I believe. Yeah. What I had figured was going to be my last book was a second series of sonnets. So this is titled Sonnets Second Series. This great painting once was my avatar on Facebook. I love this painting. I can't remember where it is. The first book of sonnets contains poems that I am more familiar with than anything in this book. As I progressed along my course, I just paid less and less attention to what I would write or had written. Well, we'll see what this gets me. This is Sonnet 111. When I was young, I scarcely understood the machinations of a bitch in heat. The note she passed perhaps betokened good, but I left it to fall beneath my feet, because I felt her missive indiscreet had been a prelude merely to a mocking. For I perceived the world as dog eat. Had I perceived her mind, it might be shocking. The willingness, or even more tenacious incessancy of woman's sexual drive had been surprise to me. She so salacious, a something I nor wanted to believe. Alas, I was unschooled in humankind, books having read, to men and women blind. That recounts an incident from my days in high school. Number 48, let's see what this one says. Like as the moon casts a reflected light, these poems be merely indirect transmission of greater glory hidden by the night, invisible save by the soul's cognition. It was a thing perceived by a young lad, yet not unnoticed even by a man, though in the guise of male or female clad, so the perceptive poet's eye may scan. Lord, she made me a poet, yet by this I willingly relinquish my sad office, for I would come from out this chrysalis, which no sarcophagus but thing to doff is, as I become a man, no time-bound eunuch, and leave behind detritus these rhymes runic. So, Sonnets, second series. Now this work of art I know is in the Detroit Museum of Art. And this is outside of a museum in Seoul, Korea. Lines written in fear of blindness. I read these some time ago on the channel, and I said, I can't even remember what this pertains. Oh, I have had eye trouble, and for some reason on that day I couldn't remember it. Lines written in fear of blindness. Lord, if I join the ranks of Milton and of Homer, should I give thee my thanks? I would be a beachcomber instead of being great, greatness a great misnomer. But let me herewith state, without equivocation, I must abhor the fate, poetic destination, which I most fear to find, being as mine own station to claim a poet blind. To that august phalanx let me be not assigned. So obviously the conceit is I was fearing blindness, and so then I thought of Homer and of Milton. My struggle. Today I struggle for my life, in spirit if not body, aware the world's injustice rife, and rank excesses gaudy. If you were here with me, I might renew my weakened will, find reason to revive the fight, my breast with ardor fill. Because your beauty must inspire, so I, enthralled by youth, must by your love feel pen on fire, enough to scribble truth. And this was me also in Korea, in Seoul, walking around. There was some big exhibit, and there were all of these, I think, ginseng roots in a big, big vat. And that was how I was looking back then. Let's see. This book was compiled in 2014, but the poems came from various manuscripts before that. I was feeling low and like I was not accomplishing anything. And these were mainly poems that I had written and posted on Facebook. I think the original working title was something like Facebook Poems, but then I came up with The Rip of Gales. I love this photo outside the museum there. Let's see what this one is. Echoes. Now more than ever seems it rich. Yet I lack courage so to die by suicide and force the switch from life to immortality. Trapped in a deadly prison, I have miles to go before I sleep. But by hard labor, though I try, rich promise I have failed to keep. Uphill the road lies, very steep, the incline that I see before me. But though my sentence makes me weep, travails I pass through, stern and stormy. The end may be a coffin wormy, yet thither too my flesh does itch, and since oblivion might bore me, life keeps me here upon the hitch. So practically every other line echoes some famous line in or some famous English poem. I think for a while, I followed on Facebook Bill Knott, Bill Knott, and he was a student of my teacher, and he died some years ago now. But I think this poem pertains to Bill Knott. My teacher, Paul Carroll, died in 2003. But this is about my teacher's more famous student. Although he is no longer young, he still is lauded now by some and has devoted followers who, when he reads, do come to hear the lyric lilting sung as he recites his verse. Yet even so, to hear him talk, but how he rails against the rich, especially the rich versifiers who've found a lofty niche, which thought but causes him to balk and vent his angry ires. Does he resent them for their wealth, or rather that their coterie does not include himself, a prole by self-description? We know not how reputation's health may soothe or pique the soul. Yet let me not grow bitter, Lord, that have not known success at all. For I observe that attitude comes first before a fall. So let me stroll toward peace and toward acceptance, time accrued. It is the only avenue a man like me may stroll, because, having known less than he, much less of worldly profit, thus it were a foolish thing to do, to hanker for success. This turns out to be one of my favorite books just because of the haphazard nature of it. How about Grief's Paradox? I knew the end was not so far, but when it came, it felt too near. And vestiges of grieving are yet undiminished with me here. Thus you may join the pantheon of friends and lovers I have lost. Bygones the heart won't let be gone. When death comes, always living's cost. Intensity remaining strong, love finds no object in this vacuum. So I am thwarted where I long, though plenteous grievances don't lack room. Capacious is the heart of man, yet why should grief become a grievance? Death balanced life since time began, and in the scale, proportion evens. The end was just around the corner, so all the season's signs foretold, which I fulfill, becoming mourner, though grief stays strong while it grows old. Similarly, choosing these books, it's just how they fell haphazardly. Some years ago, and in fact I can probably tell you the year, 2023, so not that long ago, I read the Arabian Nights in the standard Penguin 3-volume edition. It is filled with little poems or songs throughout, and I took those as an opportunity to riff with my own verse or verses on occasion, and also just other themes inspired by the stories. So let's see, this one is titled Dove. Dove, nesting on the house, carry a greeting from lover to beloved at their parting. Tell him my sadness, loveliness accreting, absence amorphous and too great for charting. I shall not cease to be enslaved by love, my days replete with grief for past delights. Without his warmth enfolding, tell him, dove, and grievous more than days the bitter nights. Bird, when my love embraced me, I fulfilled the heights of passion, while he complimented my body's perfect symmetry of build. But union sundered leaves a girl demented. Such joy and happiness we shared together, until the crow announced that we must part, and left no trace except a long black feather. Dove, ask my lover when new life will start. This one is titled In the Garden. Lady, whose beauty shames the moon, how can a lover look at you without impatience? He must croon in aspiration, croon and coo. Nightingale, ringdove, turtle dove, join with the bulbul to arouse my grief born of a stymied love here in the garden of the house. Eglantine, myrtle, violets diffuse their fragrance in the branches, which scented harmony abets a lover's love, and nothing stanches. Passion has halted in my heart, helpless, bewildered by your beauty. Why, what would mingle, keep apart, owing to muddled thoughts of duty? Lady, recline, the night is young, whilst we here listless play a game, this paradise of joys among. In faithful love exists no shame. Songs of the Nights. And I'm going to guess that these vats are in Istanbul. I did a number of books which were villanelles. This one is called The Condemnation. I take my shoes off. I take my shoes off. Let that be my rank. Much madness has erupted in the land. I make retreat as circumstance outflank. It is a bitter potion that I drank, and yet my heart is light, so I may stand. I take my shoes off, let that be my rank, though I fight not with tractor-driven tank, no weaponry nor armor close to hand. I make retreat as circumstance outflank. In life it seem one's forced to walk the plank, prisoner in perpetual remand. I take my shoes off, let that be my rank. Although an outcast, proud to be a Yank, even as these my countrymen have banned. I make retreat as circumstance outflank. The times seem dire, much madness more than prank infiltrates all the land as fears expand. I take my shoes off, let that be my rank. I make retreat as circumstance outflank. So these poems were written just before the shock and awe campaign against Iraq commenced. This one is titled The Precious Rose of Liberty. Yet avarice itself was seen to settle, not in but one or two, but rather most, which truth to hear this generation nettle, because it doth protest with so much metal extended, even as it like to boast. Yet avarice itself was seen to settle, which so expunged that ever-precious metal, compassion, that was thought to be milk toast, which, truth to hear this generation nettle, yet heartfelt attestations of regrettal reclaim no loss as felt from coast to coast. Yet avarice itself was seen to settle, despite the overflowing of the kettle, prosperity to which this land played host, which truth to hear this generation nettle. By many fiends and fools, which tore each petal, the precious rose of liberty was lost. Yet avarice itself was seen to settle, which truth to hear this generation nettle. 2003, right? Yeah. The Condemnation. Last but not least, this is just a little chapbook. It's 12 poems riffing from a line by T.S. Eliot. World, not world. I'll just read the first one. It never was my utmost goal, merely that I survive in tepid flesh. I struggle for my soul, nor other false ambitions do me drive. I keep my balance merely midst utmost upheaval. Now it seems the right course from me early hidst, as dost revile me, stringent Father, thou. Lord of undying mercy, let thy will be done. Today I grasp for breath, shed tears, and toil's wet sweat, yet cannot seem to find the proper way. Me thus assailed, O Lord, thou hast abandoned me, so I believe, and to the churning turmoil cast of waves that overwhelm me as I cry. Another bob for air was not my utmost need, but rather me sink then. After all my nerves are shot, what good were such a life to keep, my Father? Well, that's a bit of a downer note to end with. Let me go back to the Rip of Gales and pick something else out. So, as I mentioned, these books are available at my Lulu page. I'll put a link in the description box. And today, November 30th, when this should go up, or tomorrow, December 1st, you can get 30% off with a code, and I'll put that in the description box as well so that you can just copy and paste it if you like. I don't really expect this reading to result in a plethora of sales, to be honest. Fleeting glimpse. Last night I caught a fleeting glimpse as you escaped my sight. Where once ambition strode, it limps, nor do the lines set right. There also came my good friend Dan to show me how remiss my verses are, and it was an astute analysis. So, waking, with faith shaken both in love and craft's redemption, I banged my knee and swore an oath, but though I sought exemption from time's remorseless mockery, as I approached the mirror, I knew that squinting would not see the matter any clearer. A fleeting glimpse of you again. It happens every night. But though I try to claim by pen, the lines do not set right. From the Rip of Gales. Thank you, if you stayed this long, for coming to listen to my poetry, and thank you for stopping by my channel.